Why nostalgia for 1950s Britain will never fade. There's something undeniably special about 1950s Britain, a time when the nation dusted itself off and began again. The war had ended, rationing lingered, but hope was alive in every corner shop, schoolyard, and seaside pier. Families were closer, neighbours kinder, and life simpler. Coal fires glowed, kettles whistled, and laughter echoed across back gardens. Today, in an age of endless screens and constant motion, nostalgia for 1950s. Britain refuses to fade. It reminds us of a slower, warmer time when life was humble, heartfelt, and beautifully human. A country rebuilding with quiet pride. The 1950s began with a deep breath of resilience. The war's rubble still littered cities like London, Coventry, and Plymouth, but Britain was determined to rebuild. The government launched ambitious housing programs, creating new council estates that gave working families proper homes, with indoor toilets, heating, and small gardens to grow vegetables or hang washing. The creation of the National Health Service in 1948 was transforming lives. Ordinary Britons now had free access to doctors, dentists, and midwives, a revolutionary change that redefined fairness. The Festival of Britain in 1951 symbolized this rebirth, a national celebration of design, science, and optimism. Bomb sites became playgrounds. Broken walls turned into new homes. The people who had endured the darkest years were now building a brighter tomorrow. That spirit of unity and determination still glows in the nation's collective memory. It's not just nostalgia, it's pride. The beauty of simple living. Life in 1950s Britain unfolded at a slower rhythm, guided by routine and community. The milkman's gentle knock announced morning, and the rattle of coal deliveries signaled evening. There were no emails or mobile phones, just letters, telegrams, and face-to-face conversations. Most families shopped daily at local stores. The butcher knew your name, the grocer asked about your children, and shopkeepers often extended credit until payday home was a place of order and warmth. Meals were hearty but modest: shepherd's pie, boiled cabbage, and jam roly-poly. Nothing went to waste. Even leftovers found new life the next day. Evenings meant the wireless, crackling with the BBC News, or popular programs like Hancock's Half Hour and The Goon Show. Later, black and white televisions began to flicker in living rooms across the country. People gathered together, not apart, their conversations filled with laughter and gentle optimism. It was a life defined not by possessions, but by presence. A time when a simple cup of tea could still mend the soul. Community, the heartbeat of the 1950s. If the 1950s had a single defining feature, it was the strength of community. Neighbors were more than acquaintances, they were family. In terraced streets and new estates alike, people shared sugar, coal, and conversation. A knock at the door rarely meant intrusion, it meant care. Children played hopscotch, football, and marbles until dusk, while mothers chatted over garden fences. Everyone knew the local postman, the milkman, and the corner shop owner doors were rarely locked, because trust was the default setting. When someone fell ill, neighbors cooked meals, fetched prescriptions, or helped with children. The coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953 united the country in an extraordinary moment of collective joy. Streets hung bunting, families crowded around borrowed televisions, and communities celebrated together. The images of those smiling faces, filled with pride and unity, remain iconic. That togetherness, ordinary yet profound, is why nostalgia for 1950s Britain will never fade. It evokes a time when connection was real and kindness was instinctive. The seaside, Britain's great escape. The British seaside of the 1950s was a world of magic. For many, it was the first real taste of freedom after years of austerity. Trains bound for Blackpool, Scarborough, or Margate filled with families armed with sandwiches, flasks of tea, and endless excitement. On the beaches, children built sandcastles, while parents relaxed in deck chairs, braving chilly winds beneath candy-striped umbrellas. Donkey rides clopped along the sand, brass bands played on the promenade, and the smell of vinegar on hot chips mingled with sea air. Rain never dampened spirits. Holidaymakers simply pulled on Macs and carried on. Holiday camps like Butlins brought affordable joy to thousands, offering swimming pools, dance halls, and talent shows. The laughter of families echoed through seaside boarding houses and caravan parks. Those holidays didn't need glamour. They were rich with simplicity and love. Even today, one whiff of salt air or sight of a faded pier sign can pull people straight back to those treasured 1950s memories when happiness was homemade and laughter came free. Home Sweet Home, the British hearth reimagined. Step inside a 1950s British home and you'd feel warmth in every corner. Coal fires glowed behind ornate grates, patterned wallpaper lined the walls, and heavy curtains kept out the evening chill. Utility furniture, sturdy and practical, filled the rooms, built not for show, but for durability. Kitchens were the heart of the home. The kettle was always on, ready for tea with neighbors or family. Gas cookers and washing machines were slowly replacing older appliances, lightening domestic workloads for millions of women. While money was still tight, pride in one's home was universal. Polished brass, neatly ironed curtains, and spotless floors were badges of honor. The television quickly became the new hearth of the household. When the coronation aired in 1953, neighbors packed into living rooms to watch history unfold on small black and white screens. It was more than entertainment. It was togetherness. Homes of the 1950s may look humble now, but they were rich with comfort, love, and the quiet dignity of hard work. Style, music, and the birth of cool. As Britain's economy began to stabilize, its culture blossomed. The 1950s brought style back into everyday life. After years of rationed fabrics, women embraced color and elegance. Swing skirts, fitted cardigans, and neat curls inspired by Grace Kelly and Audrey Hepburn. Men's suits were sharp, hats were polished, and shoes gleamed. But beneath the polish, a new rebellion stirred. Youth culture was born. The Teddy Boys, with their Edwardian-style draped jackets and pointed shoes, were the first British teenagers to carve out a unique identity. They filled dance halls, grooving to the raw energy of American rock and roll. Skiffle bands, led by Lonnie Donegan, inspired thousands of young musicians. Among them, the future Beatles. Cinema also flourished. Films like The Lavender Hill Mob and The Blue Lamp entertained audiences hungry for laughter and drama. The arts reflected optimism. They captured a country redefining itself. The music, the fashion, the film, it all became a snapshot of post-war liberation. The 1950s were not just an ending, they were a beginning, and that energy still reverberates in Britain's cultural DNA. The spirit of hope and togetherness. What truly defines nostalgia for 1950s Britain is not just the imagery, but the emotion. It was a decade of cautious optimism. People believed in better days ahead, fueled by progress in housing, healthcare, and education. The NHS was still new, but already changing lives across the nation. Affordable homes gave families security, while education reform expanded opportunities for the next generation. The Festival of Britain celebrated creativity and unity, proving that even after immense hardship, the human spirit could rebuild with imagination and pride. Families began to dream again. A car in the driveway, a television in the lounge, a holiday by the sea. Small milestones that symbolized national recovery. hope was no longer an abstract idea. It was something you could see, touch, and feel. In that shared hope, Britain rediscovered itself, and though decades have passed, that collective optimism, the belief that community and kindness could carry the country forward, still feels like a beacon in today's uncertain times. A legacy that still lives on. 1950s. Britain has never truly left us. Its spirit lives on in the traditions we still hold dear: the Sunday roast, the love of a cuppa, the neighbourly wave, the fascination with seaside towns and local pubs. Many of those values, forged in the aftermath of war, became the backbone of modern British identity. Even popular culture continues to celebrate that golden decade. From films and documentaries to retro fashion revivals, the 1950s remain a symbol of authenticity. Vintage fairs, rock and roll nights, and collectors' markets filled with old radios and enamel signs all testify to its enduring charm. But nostalgia for 1950s Britain isn't just about style or sentiment. It's about remembering who we were: resilient, polite, united, and hopeful. In a world that often feels fragmented and rushed, that memory serves as a reminder of the power of simplicity. It reminds us that progress means little without humanity at its heart. Nostalgia for 1950s Britain will never fade because it speaks to something timeless: the need for warmth, belonging, and hope. It was a decade of rebuilding, kindness, and pride. Though the streets have changed, the spirit remains. The heart of 1950s Britain still beats softly in every British memory today. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.